Here we go. All right, moms, it's Katie here. I am here with a very, very, very special guest. And for today's Live and Learn, we are doing this remotely. And normally when I do things remotely, it's because, you know, somebody's on the other side of Phoenix or somebody is deep in the East Valley. And as we know, I'm no longer in the East Valley. But just a little bit different today. We are remote because my guest is where are you, Bethany?
New Hampshire, Concord.
It's in New Hampshire, yes, yes. So quite far away, not across the pond, but close. So welcome. How is the weather?
Actually, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a part of this today, but our weather is finally phenomenal. We have like 80 degrees today.
Ooh, we're jealous.
Ever. Yes. So I'm sporting the tank top because we're so excited to be getting some vitamin D.
Awesome. I rarely say to Bethany, so for those of you who don't know, Beth is my sister-in-law. And so I rarely say to her that I'm jealous of her weather. However, since we're probably nearing, I don't know, 101, 102 today, and it's just a little early for that, I'm extremely jealous of your weather.
So we have about a month that I get to hold over her head as being perfect.
Exactly. That's it. Just a month. Sorry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. So I am so excited to talk to you today, Beth, because you're a mom of two. Mm-hmm. Two beautiful daughters, I might say myself. And you discovered with the pregnancy for your second child a health concern. Yeah. And from that health concern, you've grown into a MOMblogger. So I'm excited to kind of go through the journey a little bit with you there, if you'd share that with our audience. So tell me a little bit about the beginnings of all of this. Like how did you discover that there was an issue? What were your symptoms? What brought you down that path? Okay.
So actually with my firstborn, I was gestational diabetic, but totally treatable just via diet. I just cut out some carbs and sugar, all the obvious stuff, and delivered a healthy baby. And actually delivered her a little bit early. She was normal weight. Everything was fine. With my second pregnancy, which was about 4 years later, I actually passed the first glucose test, which they gave me very early, around like 8 or 9 weeks. And then the second one I failed, but I just thought it was the same thing. And, you know, they tell you, for any of you that have taken the test, if you come up with, you know, gestational diabetes, it goes away after after pregnancy typically. But, you know, as you age, you could get type 2 diabetes. So I made it through the pregnancy. I did have to take a nighttime insulin as well as watch my diet, but Penelope was born, you know, healthy. She was also she was actually premature a little bit by like 5 days, but was a healthy weight, and they let us go, and we both tested. Actually, they never tested me again, my blood sugars, but she tested fine. So I never actually went to go get the follow-up glucose test to see if I was still diabetic or whatnot. I figured I wasn't, since it went away after my first. But my work actually offered, I also work full-time, but they offered a $500 incentive. If you go get this, you know, this lab testing, they'll test all your blood and stuff like that for things, and you get $500 back on your insurance. So I said, sign me up, like no brainer. Mm-hmm. So I happened to go get my blood work, and I was surprised the next day that I got a call back saying my fasting blood sugars were really high. So they asked me to go back, and they ran something that's called an A1c test, and that's when they take the average of all your blood sugars. It came back that I was diabetic, which I was shocked, just because I just really thought it would go away. And I wasn't really having any symptoms, I thought. But so I went to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, you're type 2 diabetic. You need to be on a drug called metformin. And I took the prescription. I went home and I Googled it. And now metformin can be used for a lot of things, but typically in type 2, it helps you get your blood sugar down and get your A1c down. So you should watch your diet, but you can basically live a normal life taking this. But there are side effects with it. The side effects scared me, so I decided not to take the drug and just watch my diet.
Do you remember what the side effects are?
Yeah, so I don't know like long-term what it can do, because I know that there are positives for metformin. It can help with if you're trying to get pregnant and stuff like that. But I know like some of the side effects that stood out to me were that you can have really bad cramps, like things just go through you right away. And I specifically remember One blog post said she was in bed for like 3 or 4 days straight. She thought she was dying. Like,
oh my goodness.
And I thought, I have 2 children. I can't be, in bed for 4 days. I got to figure this out. And plus, I mean, I was a new mom, not eating as great as I should have been. I was kind of dieting to lose the baby weight, as well as like, because I had gestational diabetes when I was pregnant. When I wasn't pregnant anymore, I never passed up a piece of cake. So I was like, it's got to be the sugar. I'm just going to cut sugar and cut hard things, and I'm going to exercise more and do it the right way and see if because type 2 diabetes, they say diet and exercise, it can be managed.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, but unfortunately, I was just getting sicker and sicker, and I began eating to a point I went down to 100 pounds. I was calling my doctor and saying, are you sure? Like, are you sure I'm type 2? Like, I didn't know what questions to ask because they just presented it to me like I didn't have an option.
Right.
And they, yeah, you're too old. You're definitely type 2. But I went down to 100 pounds. And at this point I was eating I went vegetarian. I cut everything from my diet, and I was still having really, really high blood sugars. So finally someone heard me. It was my dietitian. I was eating about a cup of lettuce a day and still having like really high blood sugars. And I was just basically like dying, really. I was like black circles under my eyes and just, but again, I thought I was just a new mom that was tired because the baby wasn't sleeping at night,
Right.
Those things like, it wasn't just new mom symptoms. There was something really wrong with me. So you want to trust your gut. Sometimes you have to just ask a lot of questions. So finally I got the right test, and it's a special blood work test that they do. They test your GAD and other antibodies. And that came back that I was actually type 1, that I had enough of the cells that they look for, that I wasn't producing insulin, anything. So that's why no matter what I ate, my blood sugar was going up, even with a cup of lettuce. So that started my path down being a type 1 diabetic. Which is a type 1 diabetic is typically referred to as juvenile diabetes, but it's actually becoming quite common that older people my age and in their 20s and 30s are being diagnosed as type 1. It's an autoimmune disease. So now I'm dependent on insulin, and I wear this little gadget on my arm all the time, and that takes my blood sugar every 5 minutes and sends it to my phone, so I can be aware of how food is impacting my body and hormones and all that stuff.
So no, it's perfect. So if there's a problem, if the device detects a problem, it sends it to your phone and says, hey, there's a problem, we need to do something. Tell me about that.
So this thing, I'm super passionate about it. It's called the Dexcom. It's a G5 sensor. They just released a new one that's supposed to be smaller, but I don't have that one yet. But so this will basically, it's set up to my phone on a program, and every 5 minutes it takes my blood. And I have my own settings, which people can kind of determine what they are on. I want it to alert me if I'm going below 70.
Mm-hmm.
Normal blood sugar for a non-diabetic person is about 85, is what the reading should be. And then I have it set, because I just don't want it to beep, but I have it set to not go over like 100 and like 30. But which is completely, if you are a diabetic or anyone that's diabetic, is completely different than what the standards are for what your doctor will tell you should be at. But I follow a very strict diet and a very strict way of practicing my diabetes to ensure that I kind of stay within I ideally would like to be around 90, 80, 85 would be awesome. I'd love to have non-diabetic numbers, which is a challenge for sure.
Right. And it sounds to me like you are approaching it as much as possible in a more natural way of attacking it versus just give me all the drugs you can kind of thing.
Yeah. So since it's an autoimmune disease, it is, it's everything I do, whether I go out for a run, what I eat. I cannot live without insulin. I am dependent on this drug. So it's not like I can go at it with saying I'm not going to take insulin. Even if I didn't eat anything, my liver just dumps all kinds of sugar into my bloodstream, basically that it stores up from anything, and that needs to be controlled with some type of insulin. My body just doesn't make that. My pancreas is not working, but I do control it the best way possible. So what I quickly learned when I got on insulin from being type 2 and trying to control it diet controlled, I truly believe the only reason I didn't end up in the emergency room, although I felt at times I was like dying, I didn't end up in the emergency room was because I wasn't eating carbohydrates and sugar. So even though I was still running really high naturally off of what my body wasn't able to produce, I wasn't feeding my body things that like also were working against me. Which is why I practice now the low carb eating, and so I can take as little insulin as possible to maintain those healthy levels, which makes things more predictable in my lifestyle.
Right, that is awesome. So tell me a little bit about that. So you decided, okay, we need to have some diet changes here. And did you start small? Did you just jump in with both feet? Like, how did that transition go?
So when I first became type 1, I actually was excited, which sounds kind of weird. But when I was with insulin, my dietitian said, you can eat whatever you want now. You just have to take insulin to cover it. Where as a type 2, I was practicing not eating anything. I was so excited, Katie. I was like, this is like going to be awesome. So I went home, I got out my measuring cup, and I leveled it, half cup of vanilla ice cream. I hadn't had ice cream in like a year. I was so excited. And I looked at the package. It said it was I think it said it was 23 carbs for a half cup serving of regular ice cream. So I dialed up my insulin and I gave myself a shot. I even texted my husband and was like, this is awesome. I'm going to eat ice cream. Well, what happens is my body doesn't produce insulin naturally the way other people's does. So I have to take this, this synthetic type of stuff that I put in. And it's not going to work the same way that someone else's body works. So I took that shot, which was exact ratio to the carbs that I'm eating. But the way that your body processes fats and sugars is at a different time than the insulin. So I went low. I went low fast, and it was scary. It was really scary. So it was almost overnight for me that I realized the concept of you can eat whatever you want is not a concept that I want to live by, because it's just too unpredictable.
Too scary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? I mean, you lose consciousness in its worst case, correct?
Yeah. So I guess insulin is awesome because it helps us manage this disease that is life-threatening. So by not taking insulin, you can survive, but you eventually will be sick. You'll lose limbs. You might your organs shut down eventually. It's different for everybody. So the insulin helps you process the foods where you're supposed to, but the insulin is also kind of in the blogs and stuff that I follow on it. One of those things that, 1 unit too much, if you don't account for it, it can kill you. So we're like we're giving ourselves medicine that if it's not accurately calculated, like you can die from it. So it's very scary. But
Yeah.
basically what it does is you have too much in your bloodstream and you're not enough carbs for it to process, so it sends you into hypoglycemia. Excuse me. And then that will make you feel you get the sweat. If you ever see anyone that has the sweats and they say they're diabetic, it's not because their blood sugar is high. It's because they're or that they act drunk or like confused, or they're stuttering words. That's a serious thing, and it's a result of you're going into a hypo. And even the most well-controlled diabetic can have hypoglycemic episodes because of the way your hormones, just like how we have mood swings, your body's doing things and will react differently to insulin. And as a woman, our hormones are always all over the place. So I can eat the same thing from one day to the next and it still be slightly different. However, if I know what I'm eating and I manage what I'm eating by being low carb and stuff, for me, I found that it's been life changing.
Oh, that's awesome. So talk to me about the movement into low carb, because you took your whole family into this movement.
Yes.
And I know your family, they like carbs.
Yes, I know. I'm trying. It's not everyone is as hardcore as me. And honestly, if I didn't have, type 1 diabetes, I'm sure I would still like to dabble into the sugar and the carbohydrates. However, we've seen I personally am better off by it, but also my family is better off by this decision. So immediately, I want to give a plug to this book. I don't make any money off of this, but this book for diabetics is life-changing. It's Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solutions. Whether you're type 1 or type 2, it will talk about low carb and how to give your insulin and basically all the no foods. There's a huge list, and it's endless. It's no fruits, nothing white, so no potatoes, no pasta. You can have cauliflower, but no rice, nothing starchy, no white sugar, brown sugars, no sweet potatoes, nothing that's like a complex carbohydrate. Which, as a diabetic, type 2, they were like, you can eat wheat, you can eat, none of that is on my diet. So I quickly had to change my diet so that my insulin ratios could become predictable. I know what I can eat, the size portion I can eat, and this book is a super helpful guide because it will tell you. But that started getting me to be creative on how can I go back to the things that I love to eat, but take out the carbs. Because again, our family loves pasta, loves meatloaf, loves anything with. So, and I love to cook, but that basically, I had to strip down everything I knew about cooking, now had to change. So I wanted meatloaf, Katie. I wanted meatballs. I wanted all that stuff. So I had to go back into the recipes and figure out how to recreate them to be something that I could eat, like pizza, that sort of thing. So, I mean, we're in such a great culture now, and because of Amazon and all those great things where supplies and ingredients are at your fingertips. They're a little bit more costly, but I should buy stock in almond flour because every single one of my recipes pretty much has almond flour and things like xanthan gum, but it's all low carb and has minimal impact on your blood sugar, so it doesn't make it spike. Obviously, everything is in moderation. If I eat a whole almond crust pizza by myself, I have to make sure I take enough insulin for how many carbs, because there's still carbs in it, but it's like maybe 5 carbs per slice versus 35 carbs per slice. So you could still indulge, but it's just the way it impacts your body is so much differently.
This is brilliant. So you took regular recipes, because I think that as moms, as women, as caretakers of the home in general, when we make big changes like that, you feel kind of lost. Like, oh my gosh, okay, everything that I've ever known to do is flipped upside down. So how brilliant is it to take what you know and then just go through it and being smart and using science and just changing out ingredients? That's brilliant to me, Beth. So almond flour is one of your favorites. What are a couple of other ingredients that you substitute often?
So I want to be clear too that the recipes I wouldn't just take like a cookie recipe or something and just swap out white flour too, because you'll be very disappointed. So there is some science to it, and it doesn't always work right. I still haven't figured out a way to make a great bread, but some other ingredients that we use, almond flour, mozzarella cheese, and if anyone is doing or heard of the keto diet, this is very similar. A lot of the recipes that I create are also keto compliant, and it's basically, we just don't use sugar. There's a lot of sugar substitutes out there that some of them are not good. Some of them impact your digestive system, but there's some really great ones out there as well, like the Sucrin Gold, Swerve, stevia is a huge one, right? You must know about stevia. So I'm really into those things, but I'd say I have on my website too some of the staples. If you go to that section, and it'll tell you basically if you get rid of all the stuff you used to, get rid of white flour, get rid of the regular sugar, and stock your pantry with these essentials. And pretty much you'll be set up for success to be able to make a pizza crust on the fly. I make more pizza crust now, and it's so quick than I made when I wasn't diabetic, because I would just order a pizza. But right. It literally takes, I always have the ingredients in my fridge. It's mozzarella cheese, cream cheese, Parmesan cheese, and almond flour. It takes I'm not kidding you, 7 minutes to make a homemade pizza crust. And it's delicious. The kids love it. And my husband is not diabetic, but he follows the diet. He eats what I make. He loves it. And he has lost a significant amount of weight. So this is just for your lifestyle in general too. If you follow making choices that, alternate choices where you're not always going for the pastas and that stuff, you can also, reach your own personal goals, whether it be because it's, driven by an immune disorder or whatnot. You're able to, create your own path. It's all about what you fuel your body with, really. Exercise, 10% of it. I really think so.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on your page. 100% believe in that too. And I love what you just brought up. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you have a website because you were working in the kitchen, you were making all of these awesome things for your family, and it gives me the chills a little bit. You're a girl after my own heart. You decided to use this awesome ability that you have, put it into words, put it online for the public and for other moms that might be dealing with the same thing. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Thank you. So I decided these recipes were really good, and it was always a joke because my husband would do the biggest like loser competitions at work, and he won like 3 times, but he'd be eating things like pizza and all these things, meatballs, meatloaf, all these things I was creating at home. And his friends, he'd go in at work and he'd be like, oh, I told them I ate like meatloaf last night. And they were like, what? Or, because everyone thinks that when you eat low carb and stuff that you can only eat, lettuce and a protein. And that's where you have to like be if you want to reach your goals. But it's not where you need to be. So I started getting like, well, maybe there's an opportunity for me to share these recipes. I mean, we love them. I mean, why not share something I'm super passionate about? And even if it helps people, I mean, I'd love to help diabetics out there if they're on their path to just being able to manage it, because it's such a complicated disease. And I really think that low carb, no sugar is the way to it. But if I can also help people that are just like, especially moms, if you want something that's quick. I do all these dinners I get out of work at 5 o'clock, and I'm also creating them. So they're about 30, 40-minute dinners that are super fast to make, and you can serve them to your family. And then, some of them keep where you can make them ahead so you can have them the next night. It's just, I'm a mom. I'm just like every one of you out there that's watching this, but I just eat low carb. So it's doable, and it's definitely, and I wanted to just share that. And I'm super passionate about that. And I think it's just had such an impact on my family, even the non-diabetics in my family, as far as energy levels and weight loss and all these goals that they have. So I wanted to be able to share them. So I thought I'd put them on paper. I know nothing about blog writing. I don't know how to do a web page or anything like that. I swear I hit every block. My site was attacked within like 15 minutes of going public. I had no one to call. I mean, it's been intense, but it's been fun. It's been journey. I mean, right now it's just for fun. I just post and people have been pretty responsive. So I've been pretty excited.
Oh, it's so cool. I'm in love with it. So plug it a little bit. So what is your web address?
Okay, so the name of the site is Mama Can't Eat Carbs. Just like that. It's www.mamacan'teatcarbs.com. And there you'll find, again, like the staples that I recommend you kind of stock your pantry with, just so you can get started. I feel like if you are on the path to, keto or low carb, no carb, set yourself up for success. As a mom, you're going to have those nights where you A, don't want to cook, or B, you just don't have time. And that's why it's easy to grab that granola bar that's laden with sugar, or just a handful of pretzels or something. But if you set yourself up for success, you just take a little bit of extra time and get rid of the junk food, stock your pantry. I mean, I promise you'll be successful, because it'll be your new way of life. It's your only choice, really.
Right, and from what I see, and because I kind of know you a little bit, it seems like these recipes are something that my beautiful nieces also help you out with, so you can get your family involved in meal prep as well.
They love them. They absolutely do. I highly recommend getting your kids in the kitchen and helping you with these, because it makes it less stressful kind of, because it can be messy. So, but kind of less stressful as a mom if especially if your kids are asking questions. And sometimes the dreaded question is, can I help? And you're thinking, oh gosh, I have 5 minutes to get this done. Now it's going to take me. But I know like Penelope, some of the doughs, like we roll out together, and she sees that rolling pin and she comes running. She loves it. She knows how to crack eggs. She's 4. So we have fun with it, they don't help me all the time, because sometimes I'm like, listen, I've got a 30-minute meal here, not a 2-hour meal, but
right.
But we have a lot of fun. So they definitely can help you knead the doughs and stuff like that. So it's definitely something you can get the family involved in.
That's cool though, because sometimes I have a 4-year-old too, as you know, and sometimes it's like, oh geez, what am I going to do to keep you, to keep your attention and to keep you interested and entertained, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so this is a really neat way. Not only are you teaching them appropriate habits, and they're probably feeling very fulfilled, because now, look, we get to eat what we helped mom make. And then you get to spend a little bit of time with them too. So it's kind of like killing a bunch of birds with one stone.
Agree.
I love it. Well, Bethany, thank you. Do you have any other tips for our moms, anything that we didn't touch on that you wish we had?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity. I'm super passionate about this lifestyle. And again, if you are a diabetic and if there's any questions, Katie, and they can contact me or whatever. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a doctor, but I'm living, breathing, going through this as a mom with 2 small ones. I wasn't diagnosed as a child. So it's basically, I've had to pivot from everything I knew going forward now has to change. So it's one of those things that, we're a team. We can, figure this out. It's nice when you have knowledge to kind of help you get through something. So hopefully these recipes help people. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to share what I've learned so far.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And yes, I will encourage questions for you since you said you'd be happy to answer them. That is awesome. So again, the website blog is mamacan'teatcarbs.com. And you have some other tips as well as you post recipes pretty frequently because I see them quite a bit.
I try to do them weekly, but mom life is, so we'll see.
Nobody gets that more than us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Bethany. It was great to talk with you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.